Hey everybody, this is your girl, Rhea Ray Harris, coming to you as the guest host today of The Drive at 5 with Roman Morrow. Roman could not be here today, so I will be here this Monday and next Monday as a favor to my dear friend. Having said that, thank you so much for tuning in today. We have an exciting conversation for you. Tonight is going to really talk about a sister girl who has been the entrepreneur extraordinaire. She is not just my friend, not just my soror, but for those of you that are familiar with Greek life, she is my ship. She is my sister, Ms. Donna Coleman, who is the CEO of DSC Vision Corner. How are you today?
Hello, Rhea. Wonderful, wonderful.
Now, the reason she's here for my guest is not for all those other titles. You know, we see each other on a regular basis. But she has a story to tell to inspire someone to live their dream. So we're going to have a conversation as if it's just she and I, but you all are most definitely privy to it. So Donna, tell me a little bit about your background as if I don't know. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Chicago on the South Side in Beverly. My mom is still in the house that I grew up in, been there 50 years.
And what schools did you attend?
Wow, I attended, actually that's a story in and of itself. I literally was the first black child to attend kindergarten at Kate Stark Kellogg back in 1971. And I went to high school at Lindblom Tech High School, Robert F. Lindblom.
And then?
And then I went on to do my undergrad degree at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
You can't forget that, you know, your sorors would be outdone if you forgot to mention.
Where I pledged the illustrious sorority of Sigma Gamma Rho.
Yes, where you were definitely the deuce of SSTLC. So, having said all of the education background, once you left U of I, once you graduated, what did you do as far as your career?
Okay, well, at U of I, my degree was in broadcast journalism, and I thought I was going to pursue a career as a television reporter. Specifically, I wanted to be an on-air personality. I thought I was going to be the next Cheryl Burton. But
another Lindblom grad?
Yes. She was Lindblom grad as well as U of I grad. And we also had one more thing in common. While I was at U of I, my sophomore year, I also was in the Miss Illinois pageant in 1986, and Cheryl also did that pageant in 1980. So we have a lot of similarities. But yes, after graduation, I didn't pursue that. So I found my way through a couple of jobs until I landed in my mid-20s at a company called Home Art Development, which was a commercial real estate development company. They develop properties as well as manage properties. And throughout being there for 5 years, I was blessed to also have another first, where I was the first black asset management intern, where they shipped me to Texas to be an assistant manager of a shopping mall, the Parks at Arlington, in Arlington, Texas.
And how long were you at that company?
I was actually with Home Art for 5.5 years. And it was an awesome experience, really. I was so glad to have that opportunity. Gave me my first exposure to really seeing retail, not just on the purchasing side, but the behind-the-scenes side, as well as having the opportunity to manage. There were 170 stores in the mall, and I had to have a relationship with all stores because I was responsible for collecting rents on a monthly basis.
And more than rent, repairs?
Oh, the whole gamut. Anything.
See, don't short sell yourself like you just went over there.
Well,
y'all got my money today. You know, you did other things.
Oh, absolutely. From opening to every aspect of it. But when I first arrived in 1994, my primary responsibility to start was to build a relationship with each tenant, and that started by actually going in on a daily basis, saying hello, getting to know the managers and some of the associates even, but primarily my core job was to collect rents. And then after that, I had all the behind-the-scenes work within the office, dealing with security, dealing with maintenance, the whole gamut.
And once you left Arlington, did you come back to Illinois?
I came back to Chicago, and a dear friend of mine, actually, she's my oldest friend in the world. I met her when I was 4. She lived across the street from me as a child. Her name is Perrette. She was in a field called insurance. And she said, Donna, if you ever want to always have a job, you should entertain insurance. And I was blessed to have an opportunity to go to a job fair, and I met a young man, and he literally, I almost would say he hired me on site because his questions to me were, do you have any kind of business experience? And I said, yes. He says, do you have a college degree? I said, yes. He says, do you have any insurance experience? I said, no. And he says, great, because our company likes to train people our way. We don't want you to unlearn bad habits. So I was given an opportunity to be an underwriter for a company called Safeco Insurance. And that started the ball for me in corporate America. Really, really started the ball for me.
Because as an underwriter, tell people a little bit about what that entails.
Okay. So Safeco, primarily, I was a personal lines underwriter, which meant I set the insurance rate for your homeowner's insurance or your auto insurance, or if you had, what they called it. Oh, my goodness, I'm having a brain fire. But basically, if you wanted home insurance or auto insurance, the underwriter is the person who basically assesses your application. And we weren't a direct writer. We worked with producers. So they would submit applications. I would review the applications and determine if they were acceptable. If they were acceptable, what the rate would be. So that was an awesome opportunity. And sometimes people would say, well, what does that have to do with your journalism degree? Well, journalism set the foundation for every job I ever had because it gave me the ability to hone my writing skills, first and foremost, to have presentation skills, to be able to speak on your feet at a moment's notice, to be a negotiator, to find yourself in difficult situations and be able to navigate through that with people through situations.
And do it with a smile.
And do it with a smile.
Yes.
So that was a great entryway into corporate America, and I flourished there and went on to work with another writer, Fireman's Fund Insurance, and left there and got an opportunity where life really opened up for me, and I moved to the commercial side where I started to learn how to underwrite insurance for businesses and for cities and for states on a much larger scale. So insurance has been very, very, very favorable to me. I spent almost 30 years doing it. Once I left the personal line side and the commercial side, I switched over to the brokerage side and worked for a company called Aon, and that was a whole nother experience, but that was on the servicing side for insurance, where I had my own accounts and I was accountable to various insureds, making sure that they had proper insurance, being their auto insurance, their general liability, their property. So all lines of coverage for business or all lines of coverage for a city. One of my accounts when I was with Aon was the Village of Maywood. That was
the whole village.
The whole village. The whole
Earl,
village.
you hear that? The whole village of Maywood.
The biggest account I ever wrote was the largest account that Aon had out at that service center when I was in Glenview was First America, which was yellow school buses across the United States and across Mexico and Canada. So we were talking, just for a frame of reference, I would be issuing close to 500,000 auto ID cards for one account.
Wow.
So you can't imagine the scope of what, we think about, I have to pay $1,000 a year for auto insurance. And we're talking about a client who was paying $2 million a year for bus liability coverage only for their buses. So that, I cut my teeth there, and I was able to maintain that account for 3 years while I was in that particular unit. And it helped to catapult me to where I really wanted to be, Ship, was to finally grow and be get a management opportunity. And so it took 7 years, but I was able to become an associate director for Aon and had a team of client specialists of my own.
Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit,
Okay.
because I remember when you came back from Texas and had segued into the insurance world.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, a little bit down the road, you seemed complacent almost, because you had grown so much in the insurance industry, but it perhaps wasn't fueling a passion that you had.
Well, the thing about life, it's so easy to look back in retrospect about your life. It's so hard to see where you are when you're in the midst of it. But one of the great things I really like understanding about me is I own my mistakes. I can own my shortcomings. I can own my missteps. And while I was on this journey to what I consider to be an accomplished person, and my determination for accomplishment was to be a manager, to be a supervisor, to be a director, associate director. That's where. But the accomplishment really was in finding my truth and being happy in who I was as a woman. Finding my truth and being the best friend I could be to my friends, being the best, teammate to my other coworkers, being the best member of my choir, what I sang in, and being basically happy with who I was and where I was.
You know what? And like I said, I remember most of this outside of the little window in Texas, because we've been together for 35 years. And for people that don't know, that's a long time to say we weren't childhood friends. Right. And complacent is actually the wrong word. You were struggling. Mm-hmm. And by struggling, I don't mean you were not doing a good job. You were doing an exceptional job. You were an exceptional manager. But it came at a cost.
Absolutely.
It came at a cost for your health. And I remember us talking one day, and I was so afraid for you because you were so ill. And I didn't want you to die on that job. Do you remember that conversation?
I can never forget it. When I actually got an opportunity to be an associate director for Aon, it came at a tremendous cost. I was promoted at a time where the company was doing a total shift in their workforce. We were doing all of the labor in-house. We were shifting some of the duties overseas to employees in India, and that was also the same time we had we were downsizing as a division, and we had 4 offices in other states, and they made one global announcement that we would be closing offices in Houston, Texas, New York, and California, and the remaining office would be Chicago, where I was. But they announced it to all of us at the same time, and where they did not plan for is the people were leaving before their offices were shutting down, which put the Chicago office at a tremendous, tremendous strain. So I was promoted, and I was tasked to hire, and I was taken literally off of the team that I had been on for a substantial amount of years with accounts that I was familiar, and I was given a whole new set of accounts with insurance needs that I had never been exposed to. Gas, because the whole Houston office was driven by the oil industry. So that was a whole industry that I had never worked with, and I was tasked to take on new accounts that I was never familiar with, new employees, and a new role. And I guess at the end of the day, although I put forth a great, great, great effort, And trained, I forgot, I can't forget training because, again, we had so many people that were being hired in for the Chicago office, and we only had 2 trainers in the company. So each manager had to kind of figure it out how they were going to get their new hires trained. So literally, I would be in a cube, and I would have people sitting on either side of me. I'd have people standing behind me. I'd have people standing in front of me. And I was just instructing as I was doing my job. Training, I was like, hey, we hired you guys because you have insurance experience. I need you to step your game up, and I need you to be able to learn while doing in a rapid pace.
Very rapid.
Very rapid.
Very rapid.
And, it showed me that I'm not Superwoman. I also learned that although you can want to do a great job, if you're not given the tools and the workmanship around you to be successful, the likelihood that you will be successful is slim. And I have to admit, I gave it a grave attempt. But my body ultimately failed me.
And we talked on the phone, and I told you to walk away. Because you didn't have a choice.
Let me tell you this. My doctor, he doesn't know this, but my doctor at the time, I've said this probably at least 10 times since 2007, but Dr. Jeffrey Trunsky of Northwestern literally told me that, Donna, I don't have a pill for what ails you. Your blood pressure cannot sustain these numbers. And after this being the 3rd trip within 30 days, he said, I will see you again or I will not see you again. But the choice is yours.
And by not seeing you again, he meant you would be dead.
That's right. That's right. And my response was, oh, Dr. Trunsky, you don't understand. I'm a single woman. I have a home. I have cars. I have to do this. No one's going to take care of me. It's going to be okay. Until it wasn't okay.
I was saying, right, until you were back a 4th time.
The 4th time was due to me literally sitting in my office, and it was approximately 10 o'clock in the morning, and I looked at my computer screen and I couldn't see anything. My vision was gone. So, yes, that
changed the game.
That changed my life. My life changed instantly.
And what did it take for you to come back from that?
A lot of prayer.
Yes.
I literally was off work for 2 full years. I didn't work for anyone. I was home. So while I was worried about what I was going to do if I didn't have a job, I ended up without a job. And I ate a lot of humble pie. But then I got a chance to smell the roses. And I found out what was really important in life. And I had to start rebuilding.
What did you find out was really important?
The most important thing that I could give myself is health. I neglected myself for the good of trying to have what I thought was stature or
the American dream.
The dream, yeah, the dream. Little black girl, born in the projects. Made her way to the South Side. Came all the way through college, got break after break, opportunity after opportunity, and I saw myself. I wanted to make my parents proud. And so, what I didn't understand at the time was they were already proud, and they didn't care about my title. They didn't care about how much money I made, and really no one else did either. Because at the end of the day, although people cared about me, no one really could help me but me. And so it was a really eye-opening experience. And thank God for mercy.
Yes.
Because he showed mercy for me, and
because you did not lose your house.
I did not.
You did not lose your car.
I did lose my car. I did lose my car.
But you got another car.
I got another car. But more importantly, it was the material thing.
You did not lose your life.
I didn't lose my life. I didn't lose my mind. I still had the love of my family. I still had the love and respect of my family. I had the respect of my closest friends. And I regained respect for myself.
And then in that metamorphosis, because that's a transformation, how did we get into that business program that, I won't say started your second half of your new life, but gave birth to the opportunity of how to do it?
While I was off work, I had some very, very, very dark days of what I wanted to do. And before, let's keep it real. If I'm going to tell the story, before I could move forward, I had to accept the fact that, I hadn't succeeded in what I wanted for my life. And that was a hard pill to swallow. When you think you should be at a certain level, and you don't make that level, for some of us, that's hard. And for me, it was very, very hard. It was a difficult transition. But once I turned the corner and made the transition, then I became very, very determined to come back. But I did it my way. And my way wasn't, it was no longer to prove anything to what I thought was those who had expectations for me. I took a job. I had a girlfriend who was an assistant manager at Marshall's, the Dallas store Marshalls. And they were building a new Marshalls on 119th of Marshfield. And I said, Charlene, I need a job. I got to get to work again. And she was like, they already have a store manager. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a store manager. I just want to be an employee. I don't want to be responsible for other people. I just want to go back to work. I got to get back into the workforce. And she said, Donna, you don't want to work here. It's a minimum wage job. I said, it doesn't matter. So that was my first step in just being humble. I'm like, I just need to work. And I don't really want to go through an intense interview process, and I don't want to have to smile and tell all my accomplishments. I just want to just kind of go in and fit in. And long story short, I got that job. But the store manager, she was like, oh, you're going to be my coordinator. You got to be a coordinator. You can't just be an employee. And so I went to work. So I went to work, and I'll be even honest, you know how humbling it was? When I left corporate, I probably made upwards of over $50 an hour. But my first job back in, that job was $10 an hour. And that $10 wouldn't pay my mortgage. It wouldn't, but it was a way for me to just get back into work. Get back to a schedule, get back into a discipline, get back into having something to do, something to take my mind off of everything else. But the blessings of God is you can't hide talent. You can't not be who you are. And of course I got in and started directing traffic as the store manager knew I would. And then the other employees, they responded. And long story short, I was probably on the floor maybe not even 3 months before she put me as her cash office manager. And not even months after that, I ended up going and being the district manager's assistant. So things happen for a reason.
Yes. And
though I took a major step back, within 6 months, I had taken a leap forward, and something really critical happened. And in that process, a girlfriend of mine from the church I used to attend, Lynette Walker Steele. And, as I mentioned her, I just want to send condolences. Lynette lost her mother.
Yes.
And love you, Lynette. And we will definitely be praying for you and your family. But you had a jewel of a mom, and I'm sure God is well pleased. But Lynette told me about a part-time job as a GED instructor at South Suburban College. That's something that she had done. And she says, Donna, you should consider that, And I said, I've never taught. And she was like, you don't have to really know how to be a teacher. You'll learn as you go. You'll mingle with some of the other instructors. Most of them are not formal teachers as well. And you'll get the hang of it. So, again, that was something. I started out working at Marshall's in the day, and then I was working part-time at night, being a GED instructor at South Suburban. And I think if I would say any job I ever had where I really learned about people is when I was a GED instructor. Again, can't hide your talents under light, because went in to teach one class and the VP gave me another class, and before it was all said and done, I had a whole program in Dalton. But when I say that, Ship, we were blessed. We went to school. We pretty much followed the life that our parents laid out for us. We went to college, we got jobs, and we were able to sustain our lives. And this is a segment of people that I had really never, been involved with, people who had ran into roadblocks in their youth. Because most of the students, even though it was adult ed, most of the students were 16 to 21 years old. They weren't adults. There were a few students that were older that I ran across over the years, but mostly were children who had, for whatever reason, had lost their way. So I just love to share. Once I realized what I was up against, I didn't see it as a challenge. I found it as a learning experience, and we were learning. And I was very honest with the students. My very first class, I was very, very honest with letting them know that I'm not a formal teacher. I've had no formal training. But as I have reviewed your test scores, your reading scores, and your math scores, I have a little bit more expertise in this than you do. So we can learn some things together. But what ended up happening throughout each one of the classes that I had, and this is the God honest truth, I found that the children, and that's what I call them, the children, what they needed most of all was to know somebody really cared.
Support and motivation.
What they needed to know, somebody was going to be there, be consistent. What they needed most of all was to be treated like an adult. And they needed structure. And
to unlearn some of the learned behaviors.
Well, basically, some of the key things, like you've got to get to class on time. And on time is not 1:05. When my first class started, it was 1 o'clock class. It's not 1:05. It's you need to be here before I get here. And all it took was for me not to open the door for the first 3 people that came to the classroom late. The first couple of days of class, they were like, "This woman is for real." Yeah, because the world is not operating on what's convenient for you, and the world is not operating on what your excuses are. The world is operating on a set of rules and regulations, and the first rule is to get there when somebody tell you you're supposed to be there. And I had a conversation. I'll never forget with a young man. He was telling me about, the bus was late, the cat died, and and I was just looking at him, and I said, but you knew when you woke up this morning, class is at 1 o'clock, and if it was possible for your bus to be late, and you knew your instructor said you got to be here by 1, or she's not going to open the door, then you take an earlier bus. See, because if you get a job, they're not going to want to hear about why you can't get there.
They're going to fire you.
You're going to be fired, and they're going to get somebody else to do what they're asking you to do. But by mid-semester, the beauty of it was I'd be walking down the hallway at 12:45, and I got all my little biddies standing there waiting on me to open the door. They got it. And although, I'll tell you, the students that my student base were reading at a third grade level They had many levels of classrooms. My classroom, when I started, I had a 3rd grade level of reading and lower than that level of math. So I was doing remedial.
For 16 to 21-year-olds.
For 16 to 21-year-olds. But as I told each one of them, I know that it's almost impossible. It's not. It's possible, but it's highly improbable that after my one class, you'll be prepared for the GED exam. But what I will guarantee is when we're through with this class, you all will have improved reading and you will have improved math. And you will finally have an instructor that you know you can call on and who was dependable and who actually cared about your development. Because I would often sometimes come in early and, for those students who wanted extra learning help, or I'd stay late. In my evening classes, sometimes I start teaching at night and the class would be over at 9. I'd oftentimes be sitting there with 3 or 4 students till 9:45, 10:15. The maintenance man would be like, "Ms. Coleman, we got to lock up." But, I really, because I'm like, people, you got to know how to read. And, some of the elements, the students were, court appointed. So they had done some things. And, I said, "Oh, God, what you got me involved in? I'm seeing, a whole nother side of life that I had never been up close and personal to." But it was all of this is working together for my good. Because I even told them, I said, how you going to be the kingpin if you can't count your money? You got to count your money. Oh, my goodness. You got to ask, and you got to watch those who counting on your behalf to make sure they counting right. I said, let's take it out of the book and let's just make it real, in dollars and cents. If you've got, you selling your product for $10 and this guy over here done sold 3 packs, how much are you due? How much are you due? And if you short one, how much are you short? And that's how I had to go there sometimes to make it real.
They would understand,
and they understood, and they appreciated because I never tried to talk down to people. No. I just wanted to meet them where they were, and give them the reality of the other reality of it. Because I had been a manager, I said, let me tell you how this thing works when you go on an interview, because you need to understand that as well. We Black and we in last place. And I had to tell people that we in last place. Do you not understand that? We in last place. The world hates you simply by virtue of the color of your skin. And some of them will look at me, give me the this alarming look. I said, but they do. So, sometimes we have to work twice as hard just to be at the bottom. And I would show them an example. I said, when I get an application, let me show you how this goes. When someone comes in for a job, there's going to be some people who have master's degrees on their application. There's going to be some people who have bachelor's degrees. There are going to be some people that are 3 hours short of a degree. There's going to be some people that have a high school diploma. And there are going to be some people who didn't finish. Now, what skill set am I going to reach for first? Some of those applications will never be reviewed. They're going to go in a circular file, which is the wastebasket. Some of them, you could be the one on top. But the color of your skin may say, well, I don't know if I want to have a Black woman working here. Or I don't know if I want to have a Black man working. Those are the realities of the application. So and I don't care if it's Walmart or I don't care if it was some big corporate company. They are making decisions because you're not the only person applying for a job. And you don't want to give people reasons to preclude you from getting an opportunity. Right. And now, at that time, that was 2007. They were making you for a Walmart. You had to write an essay as to why they need to hire you. Oh. So let's at least get the basics down of let's do the subject verb agreement so we can at least get the
have our foot in the door.
Have an opportunity. What I'm trying to do is give you all opportunities. So you're not learning, I know I'm going off base, but another thing I used to do for the boys in the class, which was, by when they really saw it, they got it. I said, you know what, I'm going to give you this reality about child support, because I had one of the students came in grumbling about paying child support, and he was 17, and he had a job at McDonald's, and they wanted to take 28 of his $128 that he was getting, and the other guys were laughing, and then there was one man in that class. He was a little older, and he wasn't laughing because he knew what I was telling him was true. And I said, why you all are talking about what they can't do? If you go to a job, they're not asking you to pay child support. The money is taken from you before you even get it. And there's no running from it. You can put it you can put it on the back burner for a little while if you're not in the workforce. But if you stay in the state of Illinois and that woman has filed for child support in Illinois, when you go back into the workforce, everything you owe, they're gonna put that on their rearage, and you will owe all of that. And this is how it works. They're gonna take the first 30% before you see it. And don't have multiple children, because she's going to get the first 30%, and she's going to probably get 15%. So that's 45% off the top. You know what that looks like? If you have $100, they're going to take 45 of your first $100. What's that going to leave you with? And they looking at me, Miss Coleman, they can't do it. Oh, they are doing it. They're doing it now.
Especially if she gets any type
and
of
I said,
government assistance.
what? And I said, that's not fair. We're not talking about fair. We're talking about a system. And so one of my students was just like, dude, that's why I work for myself. I said, yeah, you work for yourself, but then there is always a time where we have to meet up with the system. I said, and you really don't want. I said they didn't really know, but I said it's so bad now that you can go to jail for not paying child support. They will put you in jail for being arrearage in child support. So I was teaching what I found out at the end of the day. I was trying to teach life lessons to young men and the girls too, because some of the girls are like, oh, I can get that kind of money. I said, it's not money, sweetie. I said, what it would cost you to raise a child is not 30% of somebody's salary. That's not going to get you through. And being a mother is I'm not a mother, but I can tell you, being a mother, if you do it right, it's a 24-hour day job. 24-hour day, because if the child's not with you, you're worrying about it. You want to make sure it's where it's supposed to be. So let's keep it real. There's no gamemanship of getting, a percentage of somebody's salary, because, at the end of the day, if I have 10 of y'all stand up, how many of you are coming from a single parent home? Probably 7 out of 10. Because those are the numbers. Yep. If you stand up 10 black women, 7 of them have children by themselves.
Yep. And,
so if you ask them at the end of the day, what is that really like? If you don't know what it's like, just ask a single mother what that's like. If they really committed to being a mother, it's every day.
All day.
All day.
No holidays.
And my mother told me, she said, Donna, the contract is until you die or I die.
Yep.
If you really want to be a mother, because you're just always going to be your child. But yeah, so that was one of the most enriching experiences I had, being a GED instructor, where I got to make a difference, life difference, as well as educational difference in the lives of young people. And the joy of it has been, over the years, I'd be somewhere and somebody would say, Miss Coleman, hey, Miss Coleman. And it would be a former student and give a hug or a smile, or they telling me how they're, they got their GED, or they
and how well they're doing.
And how well they're doing. And I played a small role or a large role. I'll never know in that development. So yeah.
But you also created an opportunity for yourself, because you told me some years ago, I signed up for, a business development program. I said, but you're working again, right? You said, yeah, but I want to get back into this. Because for those of you that were not at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's campus when 1986 was around and Donna had us wearing matching outfits, and I was real big mad. I was big mad. But that was a part of who you were. Yeah. And it has always been privately humorous to me that you came back to who you were, because I looked up and I'm coming out to 63rd and Halsted to DSC Vision Corner's pop-up shop, and I'm like, wait a minute. How'd we go from Marshall's and GED teaching here? How did we get here?
I spent 5 years with Marshalls, and I had a former coworker at Aon. She had called me several times during those 5 years and said, please come back to insurance. I want to work with you. And when she finally got promoted to a VP, at that time she was at Wells Fargo, and she just made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I decided to go back into insurance. I had been away for 7, so I came back in, and Wells Fargo was a pretty decent experience, but it got to a point where, after a while, when you're in the brokerage side, and you're not operating around people that look like you, who act like you, who understand your day to day, just the whole black experience. At the probably the last 18 months, I was the black working in my department, and it just became. I knew it just wasn't what I wanted to do, and and obviously it was not for me to get another job, because I had interviewed at so many I had second interviews, third interview, and I was not getting any of those positions. I'm like, what the heck? I had always been able to get another job, but none of those positions came through. So at church, finally, they made an announcement that they were having a workshop on the following Saturday. People were going to come in and talk about us. If you were interested in being an entrepreneur, then you should come and find out information. And I hemmed and hawed that week, but I got up Saturday and I went to the workshop at the church. And the gentleman who was doing the presentation says, "We're sorry to inform you. I know that they didn't make this announcement, but if you want to be a part of the program, you got to go on Monday by 4:00 and sign up." So I said I wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know what that looked like. So I took off work early and I went on over and signed up, and I took part in the Operation Hope program, a 12-week program that was taught by Bruce Montgomery, and we met in the U.S. Bank building on 63rd and Hollister for 12 weeks every Saturday from 9 to 12. And that's where my opportunity came to life. So,
and tell people, what is DSC Vision Corner? Because even the name manifested. The words vision is a manifestation. So what is your business now?
I have a plus-size women's clothing boutique.
It's not all plus size, because I get something every now and again.
She finds a way to find something.
I will wiggle into something. Go ahead.
But my core business is plus-size women's clothing boutique, but I also sell statement jewelry because that's what I love, and purses because other women say you have to sell purses with clothing. But that came to be the name of the DSC. DSC are my initials, Donna Street Coleman. But Vision Corner, that's a story in of itself, which is beautiful. The weekend before we were to graduate, we had to do a pitch. And that means you have to stand in front of the class, and there were some other people in the industry that were going to assess, are you ready, to go forward with this business. And so I had to stand in front of the class and, say, "Hi, my name is Donna Coleman, and I'm the owner of the DSC Vision Corner." But at that time, I didn't have a name. So I had asked my immediate family and my nieces and nephews to come to my home, and I wanted to rehearse my pitch with them. And everybody was there. We were in my backyard, and I couldn't pull it together. And they were there for hours. And I just kept doing my pitch over and over. And finally, some people were getting frustrated. I'm like, we ready to go. But my brother-in-law stood up and said, "No, Donna is trying to do something, and we're going to stay here until she gets it." And he took authority, and pretty much my sisters and nieces and nephews, everybody sat back, and I did it a couple of more times. When we were done, my youngest nephew, AJ, who just graduated on Saturday from Emory, thank God, he made it through. Proud of him. He said, "Donna, Auntie, this is your vision coming to life. You wanted to have your own business, and it's happening now. So you should call it the DSC Vision. And we threw corner on there because I just see the location is going to be a corner location. So that's how we came. My nephew said, this is your vision. So that's where we came up with the Vision Corner. And shortly thereafter, everyone left, and I was able to go. And when I did my pitch, it was a success.
Did your history, going all the way back to Arlington, Texas, help you with having to deal with different wholesalers and all this and that, because you're a one-woman business?
You know what? Everything is working together for my good. Everything that I have experienced has brought me to this place, and it's helping me sustain, because the beauty of that is you mentioned 63rd and Halsted. I love telling the story of how that even came to be, because all of it was all of this is ordained by God, and I know that now because at the end of the program, the night before I did my pitch, I met a young lady who owned that space where I had the pop-up. And that was just a by-chance opportunity to meet her and just having a conversation with her. And she said, well, when would you like to do a pop-up? And I said, well, I was thinking Labor Day weekend. And she said, you could have the whole month because my September vendor canceled on me. I'm like, oh, my God. Mm-hmm. All I had to do was ask, and then a way was made. And then I didn't even know what a pop-up was supposed to look like. I had no idea. But I had friends, my ships, friends, family, people came together. And in 4 days, I put on my first pop-up. And that same year, I moved on that was August. And then the weekend after Thanksgiving, Black Friday weekend, Catherine, the lady who let me rent that space, she had another space on 79th and Vernon. And I did my second pop-up on 79th and Vernon. You was there, Ship. Mm-hmm. But at the end of that pop-up, a young man it was just, all of this is working. God is just moving me through this experience, because a young man was walking by, and he just popped his head in and asked the quick question, what is this? And I said, it's called a pop-up shop. He didn't know me from Adam, but he didn't, he had a store on 79th and Eberhard. He had never seen anyone in that space, and he didn't know what it was about. And he just asked me, well, how long are you here? And I said, I'm about to break down. This was Sunday. And he says, well, what's next? And I said, well, when she has another opportunity, I'm going to do another pop-up. And he just said, well, have you ever considered having your own space? I'm like, what? How does that happen? It happens because all of my steps are being ordered.
Yes.
And long story short, on December the 17th, I opened up the Vision Corner I subleased space within Brother Mike Muhammad's store on 79th and Eberhard. So, I took a class in April. The class ended in August. I did a pop-up
in August.
In a week, second pop-up in 2 months, opened the store. So within 4 months, God made it so. And although I was in the store for 18 months, it was an awesome experience. Brother Mike taught me a lot about, business, pricing, just showing. He says, Donna, together we can all rise. The vendors, there was 5 vendors in the store. Let's work together. I'm not in the store any longer, but I'm still connected to those vendors. We still do things together. As a matter of fact, on June 25th, me and one of the vendors, Marilyn, are going to do a pop-up shop together. That's being made possible by another vendor who connected me to the space, Lenice Watson. So, people, and it's true, working together. I've worked with so many people. I had to pivot out of the store. So which way am I going to go? And my mentor at the time, Selena, says, Donna, you need to consider vending. I said, what is vending? I don't know anything about vending. She said, you'll find out about different locations having pop-up shops just like you had, and there'll be other vendors there. I've been doing this now for 4 years. And I even had to pivot in 2020 when we had the COVID, because there were no vendor events. And it was my mother. My mother told me, God bless her, she said, Donna, use your house, use your garage. Your garage faces the main street. And who knew on weekends all last summer I would be out there and people would stop and continually return and tell others. And I was successful in the midst of COVID. And that wasn't anything about me, but, God was telling me, I think he wanted me to say how much I really wanted it. And then I had to prove to him that I really wanted it.
Yes, because it's one thing to want something. It's another thing to want it enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to be, honest. This is the hardest work I've ever done. This physical labor. I mean, when I jokingly say, I should have sold cotton candy. And, lugging my racks and, wares everywhere,
But
and I'm not complaining,
but this is by far, from what I've seen from your piece,
absolutely
the best that has come thus far.
Absolutely.
But we are really close on time, so I need you to do two things before we go. I need you to give one word of advice to women considering living their passion, and then tell people how to get in touch with you.
Okay. The only thing I would tell any woman who's considering her passion is, if you know it is your passion, if you believe in your heart it is your passion, take the leap of faith. Take the leap of faith. If you don't have faith, then start building your faith. Because if you put forth the effort and trust him, none of this is happening because of me. All of this is him working through me, giving me opportunities. So take the leap of faith. And don't wait till you're 50 to do it. Take the leap of faith. Or even if you do,
if you pass 50, don't let that be an excuse to not do.
Oh, absolutely. I was sort of joking, just because I did 2 events this weekend and I'm still feeling achy.
You all right?
but I'm all right. But and the other thing I would tell people who are passionate about something is to trust no one but God. Because people mean well, people don't mean well, people are not where you are, so they can't understand where you are. But trust God in the process.
How do they get in touch with DSC Vision Corner to either come patronize you at a pop-up or to make arrangements for you to be a part of their event? The Vision Corner has a page on Facebook. I'm on DSC Vision Corner on Facebook, DSC Vision on Instagram. My personal page, Donna Coleman. My cell number, you can call. I get calls. I got a call en route here. Someone's looking for. What's your cell number?
708-299-8468. I postponed putting out the website because right now I'm realizing that I got to get a few more things set before I extend myself by myself yet again. But I do want to put out there into the atmosphere some blessings that I have been given as far as events. I have 2 young ladies who, of their own volition, decided that they wanted to host a pop-up for me, to spotlight me. Miss Sylvia Frederick and Miss Pam Davis. I didn't even know Pam, but she said, Donna, your story needs to be heard by other women, and I'd love to put this pop-up together. So we're going to do that on July 18th. It's going to be a luncheon. That's a Sunday. Tickets will be sold. I think the ticket's going to be $20, but we're going to try to get 100 women in the room and have a women's networking event. Lanice Watson and Bree Burnett, they also put together an event, a pop-up shop for me that's going to be on June the 26th at the One Fine Tune that's on right off 175th and Halsted. Another event, someone just saw something in me and they said, Donna, we need to give you exposure.
And with that, I thank you, ship, friend, soror sister, Donna Coleman of DSC Vision Corner. And thank you, Roman Morrow, for allowing me to host for you today. This is The Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com, an iHeartRadio station. And this is your girl, Rhea Ray Harris, thanking everyone for tuning in tonight. And I will see you next week as I guest host one more time for Roman. Peace and blessings in the name of Jesus. I'll see you next week.